Welcome to Coffee with Congress, a new podcast by the Veterans Education Project, where we truly get to know members of Congress and key government officials. Every episode, we ask questions that have absolutely nothing to do with politics, policy, or legislation.
Yeah, nothing to do with their actual jobs. So instead, we focus on getting to know the real person behind the office. Army Command Sergeant Major John Troxell is a senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he's a senior non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Armed Forces. We had to hang out with him in his office at the Pentagon and ask him some questions like, what kind of animal does he want to ride into battle? Sneak peek, it's an alligator. You are a leader of men and women, and I'm sure have been on the front lines of some crazy things before in your career. So if you could imagine, kind of like George Washington on his giant white horse, if you could think of any animal that you could ride into battle, and it could be a small animal that you're magically making large, what animal would you ride into battle, sir?
I would probably want it to be an alligator.
An alligator. That's good. That's good. Why? What's about the alligator?
Well, so low center of gravity.
Yeah.
Okay.
That can manipulate the terrain.
Right.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
And knows where the intervisibility lines are and everything. And then when you set up an ambush,
you have amphibious assault going on.
Well, that's the other thing,
land in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the other thing, so you can do a little amphib stuff.
I love that.
But in the end, when you set up an ambush and you could, direct the crocodile to have its mouth open, and the minute the enemy comes through, just
close down.
Close down,
okay.
and that's all. It's all over there.
I love that. You won't even need a U-tool at that point.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you've been, I'm sure, many duty stations in your career, and I've read there's some bad and some good ones, and I know that I've been stationed in some spots that weren't my favorite. What is your least favorite duty station? What was your favorite duty station?
So I've never had a bad duty station. Okay. I think what makes the duty station, regardless of what the housing situation is like or what the facilities are like or what the organization is like, is the relationships you make with people. Mm-hmm. So, my wife and I have been married for 36 years. I've been serving for 37, and she's been at every duty station with me. And we say we've never had a bad duty station. We moved from Fort Drum, New York to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Drove through the gate of Fort Polk, Louisiana, and got a call and said, guess what? Your unit's moving to Fort Lewis, Washington. You're only going to have 4 months there. So we came into Fort Polk, Louisiana, set up our house with all household goods and everything for 4 months, then packed it up and left. Now, maybe we don't say Fort Polk, Louisiana is a bad duty station because we only spent 4 months there, but some people have had bad experiences there. Now, obviously, my best has got to be the center of the universe. My favorite, the center of the universe.
Ooh, what is he about to say?
Pentagon?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
These special force guys.
When you're surrounded by people that not only volunteered once to join the military, but they volunteered to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah.
And be that guard of honor kind of folks and everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just every day you look forward to coming to work because you're around like-minded people that are about, hey, let's go out here.
This guy.
I
like him already.
There's one thing though, sir. I read that you didn't have the greatest time in Germany, though. I heard that in Germany you came to a precipice of thinking maybe it was time to leave the service because of time differences and your ability to watch football. Can you please talk to us about this, sir?
So I was a very young man. I was a very young man back then, and this was 1984. I was
born that year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Don't I feel like an old man?
Yeah. Why?
You have to get me an appointment at a wax museum when we get done here, But so I'd only been in the military 2 years. I was, raised in Davenport, Iowa. Huge football country, huge wrestling country. But I was a huge NFL fan, and getting into Germany, my wife and I with a brand new baby boy are thousands of miles from home, and we're trying to adjust, not being around family and everything. And then I had to adjust to watching my favorite pastime at midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning and everything.
See, he knows where his priorities are.
But more importantly than the football, I was, back then in the early 80s, our non-commissioned officer corps was still in the embryonic stages of being professionalized. We'd only started professionalizing for about 6-7 years. And I was a little, kind of disillusioned with the direction that my leaders were taking me until I met a senior enlisted person, my first sergeant, who at the time was a Korean War and a Vietnam veteran. But he was the first one that took a vested interest in me and guided me in the right direction. And he was my first mentor.
What was his name?
Charles Burt DeRosa.
Wow. You got a lot to thank Charles Burt DeRosa.
Yes. He kind of... Now, his methods were, methods that were approved in the 80s, but wouldn't be approved in 2019.
I get it.
Okay, but they definitely modified my behavior, but they focused my attention and focused my direction in what I needed to be as a member of the U.S. Armed Forces. And so, when I became disillusioned with, the football times and everything, and I told my wife I may be getting out. And she says, well, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. We'll go back to Davenport, and we'll figure something out. Well, she didn't talk to me for 3 days because she knew there was nothing back in Davenport, Iowa that I could do. And that she knew that this is the direction she wanted me to go, because it was not only was it taking care of me, but it was taking care of my family and everything. So I told her, all right, I'm going to re-enlist, but we're going to go where I want to go. And she goes, well, where's that? The center of the universe, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
All right. Whoa. You know what else his wife said to him? Reportedly, she said, "You don't know how to do anything else."
That's right. I don't.
What you know how to do.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to transition to a question now. I really like knowing about people's routines, and you post a lot about fitness. You're really, really fit. I want to know what your morning routine looks like. What's the first 60 minutes, 2 hours of your day? What do you do, and why do you set your day up that way?
So wake up every morning is at 3:30. I get up, and I go downstairs, get a cup of coffee, clear the fog out, go upstairs, and turn on my communication systems. To see what happened overnight in the world. And then at around 05, I do my PT.
You said communication systems. Do you just mean your computer, or you mean there's like a satellite you're turning on?
No, my non-secure, my secure community. I have a secure compartmented facility in my house.
What?
Yeah.
So you got like a bat cave that you go into?
Yeah. So
no way.
Check out Fancy Pants over there.
He says communication systems. I'm like, I'm gonna sell my wife on this. Like, honey, we gotta upgrade our communication systems.
So the Joint Staff, I have a secret facility in my house that I can have my communications.
Makes sense.
So I can work from home if I have to.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So I see what's going on in the world, and at 5 a.m. I'm doing 3 days a week. I'm running anywhere from 5 to sometimes 15 miles. The other 3 days a week I'm doing some kind of functional training that could be flipping tires, could be carrying rocks. Yesterday, I broke out my power hurdles and my small hurdles, my plyometric box, my jump rope, and my agility ladder, and got out and did what I call the jump around.
All right. I like it.
And then after I PT, I'm normally in the office about 7.
Okay.
Because I have meetings normally at 7:30, and then the day carries on after that. And generally, there's never a dull moment here.
I like it.
Because I could be in key meetings with the Joint Staff or Office of the Secretary of Defense, or I could be doing a podcast with a couple of guys that look like they sell life insurance.
Well, I've got one follow up on that. How old are you now?
55 years and 6 months.
50. He's half. He's 55 and a half. So let's split
50 or 20.
23
and a half.
23 and a half.
In 6 months. Or 3 months.
So we'll split the difference. Your 23-year age self, what advice do you give him right now today with the experiences that you have? What do you tell your 23-year-old self, and why?
So sometimes as a 23-year-old, you need to have a healthy cup of shut the F up sometimes.
Okay.
Because at 23 years old, I had been in the military 5 years. I was a staff sergeant. I was rapidly moving through the promotion system, but I still had a lot to learn. And it took some key leaders back then to really put an investment in me for me to realize that even though I'd been in the Army 5 years and I was a staff sergeant, I was rapidly moving, I had a lot to learn. So I would tell that 23-year-old, remember your perspective and who you are, okay? Yeah. And the fact somebody did, punch me in the face, not literally, but figuratively, to get me to understand that sometimes I need to shut up and listen. That's
really good.
That was good advice back then.
Shut up and listen is always good advice, I think.
Yes, especially with your wife. I got a wife of 36 years, so I make sure that
you shut up and listen.
I shut up and listen a lot.
Steve, what you got?
All right, so we talked about your love of football. You played football as well, right?
Yes.
So
I played semi-pro football in Germany.
Really?
For the Schweinfurt Ball Bearings in Germany.
Wow. All right. So let's, aside from Army, what's your favorite football team?
Well, I am a huge Iowa Hawkeye fan.
Okay.
Yes, coming from Iowa. But my professional team is the Carolina Panthers.
The Panthers?
You just fully fledged when you moved to the center of the universe.
Well, I was in the center of the universe in 1995. So growing up, I was a Steeler fan.
Got it.
I joined the military and...
I won't hold that against you.
Yeah. You're not a Cowboy fan, are you?
I am not.
Okay, good. All right. Your Wasta is still there, all right? But I didn't really, because I was so focused on my career and my family, that I kind of went away from it. And I got back from Germany in '95, back to the center of the universe.
Right when the Panthers were being
Panthers
created.
came out, and I said, I'm a Panther fan.
That's great. So, all right, let's think about, I want you to tell me, what are the 3 things the Panthers need to do this year to be ready for the Super Bowl? What are the changes they need to make?
Yeah.
Well, they need to protect Cam Newton.
Of course.
So they need a strong left tackle to make sure they protect his backside.
All right.
They got to cut down on the reps on Christian McCaffrey so that we're not wearing him out. And 3, we got to make sure that our wide receiver core is doing what they're expected to do, and that's catch the darn ball.
Yeah, their wide receiver core is rough.
Run precise routes.
Yeah.
And when the ball comes your way, catch the darn ball.
I feel like the Panthers' main thing, and I can't believe you can say it, I think their linebacker core needs to stay healthy. I mean, when they're healthy, they're amazing.
Absolutely.
I don't know what that training staff's doing over there, but it seems like they have 2 or 3 linebackers down every year.
Well, so we lost Thomas Davis to free agency, which...
well, he's getting old anyways.
Well, but I mean, 11 years in the league and 3 major knee surgeries, and he still...
Keeps going.
He's still a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, he's amazing, yeah.
Okay, so...
But he's still got Kuechly.
Yeah, they still got Luke Kuechly, and then still got Shaq Thompson on the outside. So still got some pretty good linebackers there, but not having Thomas Davis there, I think, will hurt.
So you think it's all offense, though? That's the real problems.
Yeah, I think defensively we can compete with anybody.
I love it.
But offensively, if Cam Newton is not healthy, it's going to be rough.
All right. So I'm just thinking about, you lived in some places that have some great food and some great sandwiches. So I want you to just describe in detail the perfect sandwich. What is it? What bread are we using? What dressings? Like, build it up from the bottom up. What's your best sandwich?
Okay, this is an easy one. Okay,
all right. Okay.
So because I'm the guy responsible for Total Force Fitness for the chairman and the secretary here on the. So, and plus because I live a healthy lifestyle, Monday through Friday, I eat very clean.
Clean living Monday through Friday.
Yes, but Saturday and Sunday, burgers, fries, apple pies, and everything in between. All right,
I like that.
So the perfect sandwich for me is actually a cheeseburger.
Okay.
That not only has bacon on it, but it has a fried egg.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
And it's got, hot sauce on it as well.
Okay.
All right.
Hot sauce.
So that, and it's got to be loaded with hot sauce so that when you cut that burger in half, it's bleeding hot sauce and egg yolk all over the burger.
I'm getting delicious. Where do you go for this burger? Because we're going to go there for lunch.
Roadside Grill.
The Roadside
Grill.
Right
outside Fort Myer.
Right outside Fort Myer.
Yeah, in Arlington.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
they're about to have a run on the burgers there.
Yeah, that's a good place.
I was thinking about different fitness and things like that. You talk about fitness a lot. you got to think about like what kind of troops you evaluate troops, and we have those things. So, what's the main difference between you, Daniel, and I? What'd you say? This is your professional opinion. Yeah. Basically the same, right?
All right, you look like. So you kind of resemble a guy that I grew up with in Davenport, Iowa. We used to go to the Skid Row bars shortly after eating dinner.
Yeah.
And the minute we go in there, he would order a beer, a shot, and order of nachos.
This guy sounds great.
And this is 30 minutes after we just had dinner,
Oh, already after dinner. This is after dinner snack.
This is an after dinner snack.
I love this, yeah.
And then after about 3 or 4 beers, you kind of resemble the guy that all of a sudden is, getting a little rowdy and everything, and the bouncers are paying a little bit more attention.
That's right. And
then now I have to act like I work for the State Department and negotiate our way out of here, so that I don't. This guy looks like, he just came off the Hindu Kush in Afghanistan,
Yes.
And he's looking to go to hang out at that Skid Row bar after being deployed for about 4 months,
Yes.
And if anybody that is a non-special forces kind of person comes up to talk to him, he just kind of says, "Hold my beer." All right?
I was just going to say that he had. Beer. I was just going to say he has red hair, but that was a lie. So, thank you for that.
Okay. So, quotes, things to live by, mantras. Really, really powerful statements. Like, I feel like you have some mantras or some quotes that have helped you, some adages through the ages. We'd love to hear some of, top 2 or 3 like quotes, who they came from, and why are they important to you, and and the power behind them.
So one thing that I've lived with, this is ever since I first got to Fort Bragg, where it was impressed upon me and ingrained in me that I had to be accountable as a member of a team, and I had to. The men and women on my left and right had to know they could count on me, at the worst possible time, on the worst day of our lives, locked in combat or whatever. So I kind of took on this saying where I would say, people say, "Hey, you think you can do this task?" Be it physical, technical, tactical, whatever. And my response would be, "You can load this whole organization up on my back, and I will carry it to the OBJ, employ it, and fight and win. You can count on me," all right?
I like that.
But the point being was, some people take that as an arrogant way of saying things. No, I want them to know that physically, mentally, emotionally, technically, and tactically, you can count on me as a teammate. I got your back. You don't have to worry about me falling behind or anything.
I like it.
So I've always lived by that, and I try to impress upon leaders that through your example, we can, a lot of stuff can come out of our mouth, and some of it, will stick, and people will say, "Hey, but it's through our actions and our example that really inspires people and provides them purpose, motivation, and direction." So I've kind of focused that we got to be prepared for the worst day of our life, on any given day.
Any given day.
High-end conflict against a near-peer kind of threat, the continued fight against violent extremism, or whatever we're doing to defend the homeland and our way of life. So, I went to Raqqa, Syria, and I went to visit. This was during the fight for Raqqa to eliminate the geographic caliphate. And so I got there, and I was visiting some of our most elite special operators, probably some guys you know. But I got on the roof of this building in Raqqa, and I watched as we were putting attack aviation, we were putting close air support, we were putting artillery and mortars, we were by, with, and through our partners, we were moving to contact against ISIS, and we were putting such a level of scunion, as I call it, on the enemy that I couldn't figure out how they were holding out. And then the minute there was a pause, ISIS was able to come out with a vehicle-borne IED or a suicide vest. And the resiliency they had as an enemy, I thought, man, we got to keep taking the fight to these, bad people here.
Yeah.
So on the roof of the building, I just said, these ISIS has 2 options here. They can surrender or they can die, period. There's no in between. If they surrender, we will safeguard them to their detainee holding cell. We'll give them, chow, a place to sleep. We'll give them due process and everything, But if they choose not to surrender, then we are just going to use everything in our power to eliminate them and kill them.
I like that.
And that goes back to, and so the message to the troops were that's either through security force assistance, by, with, and through our partners, by dropping bombs, shooting them, or beating them to death with an entrenching tool. The bottom line is we're not going to stop till we eliminate this threat.
Well, an E-tool, there's so many things in our kits. Why are we using an E-tool? I was CADM, and I trained guys on using our weapon systems, using butt strokes. We're using an E-tool. Are we going to have ribbons for this?
No.
Can we? Yes, I think that could be a good idea.
We started doing quals for E-tool, and
kill should be awarded a Valor Medal.
I absolutely agree. But hey, you run out of ammunition.
Those reports are going to get embellished really quickly.
You run out of ammunition. That entrenching tool, if the edge is sharp enough on it, you can do some pretty good damage on a threat.
For our listeners, why don't you describe what an entrenching tool is real quick? We know.
It is a military shovel it's a multi dimensional shovel. So it's used to dig, but it can also be used as a serrated edge on one side, so it also can be used as a non-standard weapon to eliminate threats. So the point is, we're going to use everything available to us to defeat this scourge known as ISIS. And so surrender or die just kind of became something took off.
Surrender or die. I like it.
Now I've been signing entrenching tools for almost 2 years, and the E-Tool Nation is almost 600 strong now.
Well,
and there's a member right here of the E-Tool Nation.
Yeah, I am a member of the E-Tool Nation. Okay, we're starting to kind of close out our time here. We got a few more questions I think are pretty interesting. And what is the book you've given the most as a gift to other people, and why?
The book is a book called Rifleman Dodd. And it is book. It is a military book. The Marine Corps is the ones that use it the most, but it talks about this young man, Rifleman Dodd, and I think it was in the Boer Wars, that became separated from his unit in major combat and had to fight his way back to friendly lines. So when we talk about being physically, mentally, and emotionally hard and prepared for the worst day of our life, Rifleman Dodd had no food. He had no security. All he had was his weapon, his ammunition, which he was limited on, and he had his knife. So his ability to withstand hunger, and then sometimes coming upon dead horses out that time, and using his knife to bring meat out, and just cooking it up just to sustain, but he overcame fear of being captured or killed. He overcame starvation. He overcame sleep deprivation. And he was still focused on making sure that his weapon was cleaned every day. His ammunition was cleaned every day. That if he had to employ his weapon system, that it could be true. And in the end, he had the determination to work his way through these enemy lines and make it back to friendly lines. The point being was, and then he would see things like, corpses that were strewn up of his fellow troops where the enemy had. All of that he overcame physically, mentally, and emotionally to accomplish his mission. And in the end, he, in my opinion, is the example of what we need every day in our United States military. That someone can overcome hunger, they can overcome sleep deprivation, they can overcome fear, and they can still apply their craft and their occupational specialty through a band of excellence to accomplish the mission and defeat the threat or solve the problem. And so that book is one that I give out a lot to people because I want them to understand that we're in a profession that forces us to operate in some very bad and adverse conditions. You both know this very well, and and that the world is not perfect, and certainly combat is far from perfect, and the enemy gets a vote, and the population gets a vote, and our partner forces get a vote on how we operate there. So we've got to make sure that we are prepared for the worst day of our life. And I think that book, Rifleman Dodd, is a good one that kind of talks about that.
Yeah. Well, Steve, do you have one more question, and we'll go into the lightning round?
Okay, sounds good. So, a lot of people talk about what superpowers that they would want to have. Not interested in that. I want to know what kind of superpower you want your sidekick to have. So,
My sidekick?
Yeah. So, if you had a right-hand man or woman, what superpower do you want them? That would be super helpful for you to have at your side.
I think kind of like. Stretcho on Fantastic Four, where they can just stretch their arm out.
Yeah.
And, either smack somebody in the head or, snag them up by the collar or, choke slam them or whatever they need to do.
You'd be like,
you want a Mr. Fantastic as your sidekick.
Yes.
Hey, take care of my small work. Boom.
That's what I feel like it is. I feel like really what's starting to say is like someone grab a cup of coffee. He's like, got you, and it's just like goes around the corner.
No. I grab my own coffee.
You got your own coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'm talking about if somebody is nodding off when I'm talking or something, and they can just reach out, smack.
That's amazing. I love that. All right. One of the ones is about kind of like Sergeant Dodd, Rifleman Dodd. So what type of environment do you think you would survive in the best, and what would be the worst? So Arctic, jungle, desert. What environments do you think you're the best apt for, and maybe the one you're worst, you're least apt for?
I'm best apt for a tropical hot environment.
Okay.
But I think anybody, if you have to fight in an Arctic environment, you think of our forefathers on the Korean Peninsula in 1950-51 fighting in the Chosin Reservoir at 30 below temperature. And I used to be the U.S. Forces Korea senior enlisted leader, and I went out on patrol on the far eastern part of the country where the Chosin Reservoir was in the middle of February with our ROC counterparts. I'm the only American out there. As a matter of fact, I was the only American they had seen in 2 years out in the far eastern part of the country.
Whoa.
And I got out there, and when you talk about trying to do a recon patrol or set in an ambush, when it's 30 below out, your ambush is out you're doing everything as a recon patrol, because if you sit in a position of observation or whatever for too long and 30 below,
you're done.
Yeah, you're done. Okay, so
there's no ambushes in the Arctic.
Yeah, it is much easier to operate in a hot environment, even though all the heat injuries are potential there. But in an Arctic environment, it is even worse. 30 below weather, and you're still expected to operate at the optimal performance level to defeat a threat or whatever it is. That's I hate.
Right.
And growing up in Iowa, I used to love the snow and everything.
Right.
But now, I guess the center of the universe kind of spoiled me,
Yeah.
So now I'm not a big fan of the snow and cold.
All right, so now we're going to go into the lightning round, and these are going to be some fast-paced questions. Just answer them as fast as you can. All right?
Okay.
All right. What flower best characterizes you as a person?
A rose.
Okay. Okay, I like it. What is the animal you most identify with as far as its ferociousness?
A badger.
A badger. Okay. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a soldier.
Oh, all right, cool. I like it. And last but not least, do you have any nicknames that people call you that maybe most people don't know about?
Well, the obvious one, Duke. Because my name is John Wayne.
Yeah. All right.
Trox, because my last name is Troxell.
So
but that's about it.
The last question. From now on, if I'm in uniform or out of uniform, can I call you Duke?
You can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for the after hours.
All right, sir.
Okay?
Well, you made it through the gauntlet. Now you have the last few seconds here to yourself. Talk about anything you want to talk about. No questions from us. Just about anything something program you're working on. Anything.
Well, I just want the troops out there to know, from all the services and all components, that I spend a lot of time traveling around the world and assuring our allies and attracting new partners and building these partner relationships. But I will tell you that the number one military as a partner of choice is the United States military. Countries around the world want the United States to assist them in bettering their military. We have a lot of great partners. We have a lot of great allies out there, but no other nation's military in the world takes the time to train, educate, trust, and empower people like the United States military does. And when it comes to non-commissioned officers and petty officers, no other nation in the world, again, we got great partners that we have great relationships with, but no other nation in the world puts the level of trust in our non-commissioned officers and petty officers like the United States military, where commanders can use mission command through their orders process, that they can allow enlisted leaders to exercise discipline initiative within commander's intent, apply agile and adaptive thinking, and defeat the threat or solve the problem without being supervised or micromanaged. We give them tasks, we give them purpose, they go out and get it done. And that is what has made us the greatest military in the world, and that is what has given us the most success over the past 18 years in this kind of global war on terrorism. And let there be no doubt, when it comes to long-term power competition or to get after rogue threats and everything, it's something that's on the mind of those potential rogue nations or those great power competitors, that if they have to come up against the United States military in a decentralized kind of fight, their mid-range managers or non-commissioned officers are nowhere prepared to execute mission command like the United States military. And that's what will carry the day. So my message to the non-commissioned officers, petty officers, and troops out there: continue to grow, continue to develop, continue to strive for excellence. And if today is the last day of peace and tomorrow means we have to go to a full high-end war, you got to be prepared for the worst day of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, and technically and tactically. So never take a half step and continue to get after it.
Love it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much.
That was awesome.
I'm ready to take a hill now, I feel like. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Coffee with Congress, where we are joined by Sergeant Major John Wayne Troxell. We got to learn a little bit about him and unfortunately a lot about me, maybe. Subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcast. We are everywhere. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Remember, the Veterans Education Project is always preaching possibilities.